Good morning, friends. Hope you're living good. Hope you're having a beautiful, blessed day. It's raining here. We're in South Carolina. Hurricane Debbie's coming through a little bit. It's just rain for us, a lot of it, right? Given a lot of it, and that throws a lot of us old South Carolinians off. But it's fun. I enjoy it. It is a. I'm naturally more drawn to be less energetic when it's raining. So it's been a process for me, to be honest with you, as always. So right now it's pouring down. There's some flash flood warning across the state, across the city areas. Apparently school's out and that kind of thing, and for certain kids, for certain schools. So we're still here. We're still going to do it. We're still going to enjoy the day, be a person of passion and fulfillment, be purposeful in our actions, okay? What I want to talk about today is really get personal with a certain light, and this may be a multiple series kind of video here, or topic, I should say. It came to me last night, and it's something I think about a relatively decent amount. It is that ever since I was younger. Ever since I was growing up and developing in these interesting ways, and chasing pleasure, chasing entertainment. Don't get me wrong, I was very blessed. Always been blessed, as we all are, in our own individual way. I did not go without very much, and I was blessed to have a really good mom and a good father. They had their issues, just as every parents do, and I went through what I did with my dad. I won't even get into that on that subject, but what I'm getting at is despite all these blessings, I had many blessings. Playing the game never worked out for me. Playing the game, living by the normal matrix kind of way of living. I'll say matrix, it might trigger some of you. It never truly worked out for me, like the way it did seemingly for everybody else. Right? I mean, I remember. First of all, we didn't have Wi-Fi for a long time. My dad was very skeptical of anything on the internet for the first half of my life. I remember going over to the neighbor's house and playing games on their computers and just trying to have fun that way. As I became more addicted to technology, by the way. You've heard about that before. Didn't have Wi-Fi early on. I struggled with Wi-Fi like my entire life. And I say struggle like we always had bad Wi-Fi. Like even when I would move to an area that should have had better Wi-Fi, I still had crazy issues with it, like resetting one a day, all these different things. And this is 100% a first world problem. This is not a complaint. The point of me bringing this up is I would try and chase my pleasures. I would try and play a ton of video games. I would try and watch a ton of TV. And things would get in the way. Not only was my conscience fighting me, right, but physical incarnations of that would happen. It's funny how that happens, right? Like my subconscious mind, like I remember I never enjoyed the thought of being a gamer. Like I always thought that was the bad thing, like a derogatory term. I remember being extremely anxious and self-conscious in school around the topic of gaming. Like some kids would be open about it and happy to express that I'm a gamer. They're a gamer in whatever way. To teachers, to the rest of the class, whatever. I couldn't do that. I struggled. To me, it was like one of the worst things I could admit for some reason. Now, as a kid, and as many of us are, we don't reflect on these reasons. We don't think about them much. We kind of just avoid them, right? As we might do as we get older, too. But, yeah, here I was, this kid, facing this lack of confidence in something that I found a lot of enjoyment and pleasure in for some reason. Don't get me wrong, when I was playing the game, a lot of the time I was having a blast. Time was flying by. But then there was times too where I was sitting there thinking like, man, this is cool, but what else could I be doing? But I didn't let those thoughts ruminate for very long, as video games tend to do. They take your attention away from everything else other than the video game, right? So it became very much of a vice in a way. A vice. Yes, I was just a kid, so some of you would be like, oh, a vice as a kid, like that's crazy. But in reality, it took me away from the pain of my reality and did not allow me to face it for what it was and make adjustments. Me and my father did not have as great of a relationship as we could have as I was growing up because I was always playing these games. right? Now, there's something to be said for leading by example, but I was just very much enthralled in video games and not doing anything other than playing video games, right? I was obsessed. Playing outside was not a focus for me at all. And that hurts me to say, because I grew up in nature, and now I know how much I love and enjoy nature, right? But back then it was not a focus at all for me. I would rather been playing the game, living in whatever fictional world, having whatever false realities presented to me, getting that glimpse, as I talked about yesterday, right? So it never worked out for me. My conscience was constantly eating at me, saying, "Hey man, what are you doing?" Right? Now, as I grew up and I got out of playing video games as much, and I got more into actually experiencing the physical world and having friends and playing outside, like with friends, and doing things that kids do, smoking weed, drinking, that was something I was much more attracted to. That took me away from video games more and more and more. Right, the physical experience of actually doing something. I would see friends who had experienced some fun things with me, but they didn't have the same draw to being around people in real life, and it would confuse me in small ways, and I would get aggravated at times when we didn't want to go do something, right? But my point in bringing all this up is that my conscience, my higher calling, my higher divinity has always smacked me around. It's always beat at me as I tried to chase my pleasures, as I attempted to chase these lower levels of life, right? As I diverted my attention to things that weren't very helpful to me. Now, this might be happening to you and you don't even realize. I didn't realize for a long time. I thought it was just, I just got mad. I was just like, why? It was a pity party to a degree. Why has this always happened to me? Now, very early on, I developed a sense of, hey, never feel bad for yourself. Never, ever, ever. But still, even when you have that conscious pattern of thinking, like you feel it coming on, you can consciously say, no, I'm good. There's people who can't fucking drink water, clean water in Africa. There's people who don't sleep. There's people in America who have it 1,000,000 times worse than me. As soon as you can have that conscious pattern, but it can still, there's still like a way for it to seep into the subconscious mind at times. These pity parties, the victim mentality, right? They have really subtle ways, and especially dependent upon the people you're around and how they view life. That's a very subtle way for it to seep in. But nonetheless, even as I developed into my older teenage years and my younger adolescent years, I've just a few years past, as my daughter was born, especially my past 4 years, 5 years of this process I've been of extreme growth and development, part of it has been exactly what I'm talking about. Part of it has been I was still seeking these lower divinities, still chasing these pleasures that felt good, that gave me quick satisfaction. As I was growing and developing, I was like, okay, you rationalize. You're like, all right, I'm doing all this good. I'm doing really good in these different areas, so I can have a little bit of that. I can have a little bit of this. But I would do that, and I would indulge. And sure enough, there it was, biting me in the ass in my conscience. Whether it was smoking weed, playing video games, entertaining myself, drinking, sex, whatever, masturbation, whatever. Just being completely honest with you guys, it's these simple, instant forms of gratification will take us off path. And the thing about me, and the thing about individuals like me, is I do what I do hard. Like, I'm going to go hard on whatever it is. I'm going to take it all the way. I'm not going to do it just a little bit. I'm going to do it a lot of it. So for me, it's hard to have extremely pleasurable, instantly gratifying habits of any kind, right? Like if I haven't played the game in months. I think the last time I put a game on was like Thanksgiving, right? And it's August, right? And I just don't really have a desire to. I mean, in the back of my mind, there's like, man, I could get on there and have a little bit of fun, but I have too much to work on. I have too much to focus on. And it's like it might sound negative to you, but my point is that it's joyful work. Like working on the things that I want, that's my prerogative. My prerogative is to work on the things that will fulfill me and give me that purpose. And even if I was to go and play a video game, I would play it for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe. And I would feel fucking so unmotivated, so drained. I would be like, dude, what am I doing? And that might sound healthy to you, but it is what it is. For me, it's like I know what I want. And I know that there's nothing that comes from playing video games for me. Right? And as you get on that path of all of your actions being purposeful, and you raise to that level of consciousness and maturity, you can't unsee it. Right? Now, again, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of time for entertainment. You need entertainment, you need recovery. You even need a little bit of relaxation. But you got to know your purpose behind all your actions. You got to know where you're at in comparison to where you want to be. Right? Where I want to be, I'm grateful and I'm consciously aware of gratitude. Like, it's something you have to work on all the time, but it is something I'm very aware of. But I'm still, there's still a lot of things in my life and my family's life that ache my heart, that I have to strive to get away from to create better. Right? I am consciously grateful for it all, and that makes a huge difference. Like, if I wasn't that, then I wouldn't be as far as I am, and in the ways I am. Right? So, I hope this is kind of making sense. Again, the matrix traps, the traps of pleasure-driven like living, have never suited me. I've never been able to stay with them for any given period of time without extreme avoidance. Like, we can talk about that as well. A time that I can think of when I was extremely avoidant of purpose and passion was from like sophomore year, the end of freshman year, to like junior year or senior year, like in that time period. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That time period, first it started with me quitting sports. I went down this path. I quit sports. I started doing drugs, started hanging around with all these no good people, with my friends who I'd always been friends with. And things just went very downhill, making very stupid decisions. And I was doing drugs. And the thing about drugs is, especially the harder ones, right? Pills and coke and different things, they limit your consciousness. I mean, alcohol and weed does it too. But it's like the worse the drug is, and the more people look down on you for doing it, and the more you do it, the more you can avoid everything. You might have seen someone like this before. They get on pills, they get on heroin or meth especially. Their conscience is gone. They don't give a fuck. They are completely egotistical and living from a place of pleasure, right? Progressively as well. But back to my point. In this time, I lost all sight of reality. I lost all sight of what it was to be purpose-driven. Other than, I'll say, the only thing I did always work out. I did always keep my body in check. And that was probably, a lot of that purpose was a little bit pleasure-driven too. I wanted to look good, right? Being transparent. And then I also started working. I always knew I wanted to work. So I started working, started doing these different things. But as I was doing these drugs, I was going down this path of less and less care for anything. Treating people worse, doing people worse in different situations. I mean, it was a bad time. I lowered myself to the standard that I don't think I had ever been at before. And I was making these terrible decisions. I was also chasing these pleasures in any way I could. Playing a lot of video games, drinking absolutely as much as I could. Again, doing drugs. So it was in these states that I was actually, like, my conscience was numbed in a way, a lot of the time, because of these substances I was doing. It's like my connection to higher divinity was extremely blocked because of the different things I was doing that were absolutely against myself. They were absolutely against anything I stood for, which I didn't stand for anything at the time. But internally I knew that they weren't me. And it was the exact opposite of what I had started developing as I played sports, the very beginnings of it. Right? So here I am avoiding my entire conscious perception of life. seeking as much pleasure and ease of living as possible at a time when I should be developing and growing as much as possible. All right. I spent all that time. Thankfully, God, the universe, sent my now fiance, into my life when it did. Or else I don't know if I would have made it out of the hellhole I was going down. But she came into my life, and I got away from the drugs. I got away from the silly shit eventually. And it was still a period of time where I was pleasure driven in a lot of ways, but my conscience came back. I started fighting for things that made sense for me again. I had a relationship that I cared about again. I still worked on myself. I started doing things that actually made a difference rather than focus only on pleasure. Now, there's still a lot of pleasure driven there. And that's the rest of that timeline up until senior year of fighting against that and breaking that wall down. Until I got into that position around senior year where I realized the growth and development that I was a part of and needed to have. And from there, it was just on and on, right? But it was from there, it was, all right, how more and more progressive lessening of how much pleasure I was chasing. And it took a lot of time. But where I am today, I wouldn't change any of it for the world. It made me who I am today. And it's my entire point of I've never been able to choose that lower life unless I was on substances that took me away altogether. So, why do I tell you all this? Use this. Reflect on your own decisions. Reflect on what your conscious mind is trying to tell you. Reflect on what your subconscious mind is taking you through. Are you extremely pleasure driven? Are all of your actions developed around an idea of having fun and living easy? If you're not careful, if you're not conscious of it, there's a high chance you are in our society. And depending on where you want to get to, which you actually have to define these terms in solidity, not up in the air. Depending on where you want to get to, you have to be able to assert how to get there, and to make those decisions and see it in your mind's eye, where you want to get to, and make the decision, the small decisions, day by day, to get after it and change yourself in a meaningful way, and accept the things you can't change, and be more of an individual that you want to be. So guys, I hope this helps. You got a deep dive into a small part of my life. If it made sense or if it resonated with you, if you have a similar story, please let me know below. Let me know below. I want to hear what you got. I want to hear any questions you have as well. If you got an idea from this, let me know that as well. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Like it, comment on it, of course, subscribe, all the fun stuff, right? I appreciate you guys. Let's go get them. Let's have an amazing day.